Hi everyone, and welcome to the Remain Indoors podcast. We'll be looking at some lighter news from around the internet, having a grumble when required, and talking about the ways we're keeping ourselves entertained at home. Remain indoors. I'm your host, Richard Spanners Ready. We have a very interesting and learned guest for you today. But as always, I'll start off by talking to Matt. Two rumpets. They have to settle for you, Matt, first.
Huh? What? No, I was not up till 2 a.m. trying to get in all my Westworld before my free HBO subscription expires. No, not at all.
I think by your tone that you did do that.
Yes, I did. It's sad. The child goes to bed too late. I'm like, I'll never get it all done before I run out of free HBO.
I'm really scared about the life stage that you guys are at where you have a teenage daughter in the house, because we're used to just these kids, and at some point we go, kids, we love you. You have filled our day with joy, but just go the fudge to bed now and shush, be quiet. We mean it. Shut up. We've put in at least the minimum effort. Now mummy and daddy want to, as it happens yesterday, watch Westworld.
Yeah, no, it's a hopeless cause. Actually, I watch Westworld with my daughter because my wife goes to bed before either of us. This is where you're headed. Just trust me.
I don't like it. I liked having the little ones. I don't want basically two more adults in my house. You've got another flatmate is what you've got. I didn't sign up for flatmates.
Well, you know, and you say that, and it's really true. Yesterday, she's finishing up this massive project in world history in which she learned things about Chernobyl that even I didn't know, and I lived through it over here in the United States. But she was working, and at one point, my wife said, gosh, she's working really hard. Here, have a biscotti. They made homemade biscotti. And my child goes, cookies are only for people who finished their work.
She laid down the law to you. Oh, no. I don't like it. Stay little forever, little Vivian tree face. Oh, mate. It's nice to speak to you. It's nice to come here and have this as like, however my day's going, I know that I've got this focal point at 2 p.m. and I've been looking forward to it today because today so far has been like a proper working day. I've been actually working and feeling stressed from work-related stress things, which is making this the worst lockdown holiday ever, frankly. I didn't sign up for this. I signed up for lazy lockdown.
I was going to congratulate you on recreating normal for yourself while locked down at home, but maybe that's not such a good thing in your case.
Not quite normal. It's all right. There's some very lovely bits. I was consulting somebody on the other side of the world on how to create things like this, and that was fun because we were just like nerding out about audio and how to deal with people on the other side of, you know, the world, like you yelling, I never touched anything, man. The settings are the same. Oh, apart from that big red button there. But that kind of thing, you know. They've taken a look at what we do with Missed Apex and said, oh, we'll have a piece of that. So that's lovely. And then, you know, setting up stuff for this, setting up stuff for the live conferencing that I did with Joe, which went very well. We had a virtual live audience seminar over Zoom, which I sat and moderated, which you attended, Matt. So, you know, how do you think that went?
I think it went very well, and I think it's going to be a model for sort of a lot of things that will be to come.
And that was another hour, seriously, an hour of my day today was getting a clip from that live conference so that I can promote it and say to people, you know, this is what we did. But I had to blur out the people who I didn't have the permission to use their names and pictures. And so then I had to learn the new skill, how to blur out somebody's face on a video. And a 49-second clip took an hour of my day today. That put me in a bad mood. And then I had half an hour of being a customer services agent to a dissatisfied customer. Turns out I have no chill when it comes to customer. Can you believe it, Matt? I am not like oh, sorry, sir, I can't believe you've had that problem.
It's the kind of surprise I like to call utter, having known you as long as I have.
Yeah, so we might have to outsource that. We might have to outsource that quickly. But yeah, look, I decided to treat, at some point I said to my wife, I said, look, it's a working day. I'm going to treat this day with respect. Start as I mean to go on. I am having a shower and putting on clothes and like brushing my hair. And she went, that would be a very noble thing, was it not already 11 a.m.? So from 11 a.m., I treated the day fully with respect. I am wearing pants, as far as anyone knows. I didn't go as far as socks. That's crazy talk. And speaking of crazy, our own resident, I can say resident, our own resident mad scientist, Dr. Andrew Holding, is joining us.
Hello.
Now, are you going gently stir crazy like everyone else?
Yes. My alcohol intake is ridiculously high considering I haven't left the house.
Now, this is apparently like a big thing. I heard them talking about it on the BBC. There's real concern for moderate drinkers or normally moderate drinkers suddenly ramping up the amount that they're drinking and it becoming habitual.
I mean, it's when you're very limited what to do. I have found I just like standing there going, oh, what do I need to do now? I'll eat. I don't know. I don't need to eat. I've barely left the house. Suddenly, I have an urge to eat. I only had lunch like 5 minutes ago. Oh, let's eat again. Let's eat another chocolate egg. It's the same with drinking. It's the same with everything. I think it's the lack of stimulus is just making me want to find something to do that's acceptable in public society.
See, the problem is, I don't know what your work is like, but a lot of my work is talking, which is perfectly doable whilst having a pint as well. So because you're not driving anywhere, like there's virtually no restrictions on me having alcohol because I think I'm quite lucky. I don't know, some people get like a bit depressed and sad or angry when they have drink. Like I'm always like focused and happy and engaged when I have a drink. So I don't know, which is really bad. There's no disincentive for me to drink and do my work if I want.
So is there a gin and tonic on the desk in front of you right now?
I will proudly declare, Dr. Holding, just for anyone who's worried about my health, typically, in fact, I would say I don't think I've gone before 5 p.m. On any day yet.
I mean, This links into the idea of making sure you have a routine. So if you are going to drink, don't bring it back to the 11 o'clock. I was chatting to one of my friends and I was saying, oh, I'm drinking quite a lot. I know what I should do. It's not ridiculous. He said, I think it's fine as long as you're not drinking a bottle of whiskey a day. And I was like,
whoa,
that's an extreme bar.
Only a bottle? No,
well, he defined that as alcoholism, which true, I think I agree. But I think there's a level before that you should be concerned.
Well, I had a friend who used to claim they weren't an alcoholic because they only had 3 or 4 beers a day, but they were the 72-ounce ones.
Well, look, your standard bottle of whiskey. I'm not defending anyone, or I'm no one's moral compass. But it's only 10 doubles, isn't it? Tell me you've never had 10 doubles in a night. Tell me you've never done it, Dr. Holding.
I have no memory of it. If I have,
I do not recall, to the best of my recollection, that has not happened. But go on.
So there is a slightly more serious point to this though. Is that the whole thing about middle class drinking? Actually, if you look at sort of what we consider in the UK middle class, so people who have a standard job, nice home, 2 kids, the amount of wine a lot of those families drink in a week before lockdown actually is borderline alcoholism anyway. And it's not uncommon to find out your friends, oh, we have half a bottle every night as a couple. It's not a huge amount. Certainly it's not a bottle of whiskey. But yeah, it is an issue and it's not the healthiest option. So I think a lot of that's going to go up from a half a bottle to a bottle for a lot of people. And, there are going to be consequences.
But just bringing up the entirely reasonable point that isn't it like a thing that a lot of times people will stop off at the pub on the way home and drink there? I mean, are we just seeing the home alcohol consumption replace the social alcohol consumption that was already taking place anyway?
I think that's a hard one to call because you've got to have the data. I don't know if the data's been done yet, but I'm the sort of where I see it being most risky and most challenging is those people who already were drinking at home. One of the people in the chat have just said they don't drink at home. And I think those kind of people where there's no drinking at home, there isn't alcohol in the house, they're actually going to drink less. But if you're the kind of person who was opening a bottle anyway, you don't get hungover when you're going to work, all these other things means I think we'll see different people respond in different ways. And I think there's a real risk for some people to bring the alcohol levels up, and then that has other influences on health. So, I mean, if anyone tries going to the gym, try going to the gym after drinking a bottle of wine and try going to the gym after not having a bottle of wine.
Oh,
the night
yeah,
before.
yeah.
And it's a big difference.
Yeah, huge difference. In fact, I would say, if you're going to do any exercise at all, you should not have any alcohol the day before. Like, doing exercise when you're hungover, not a scientist, but I'm pretty sure there's been links to that is definitely bad. So if you know you've got a football match on a Saturday, you shouldn't have any alcohol on the Friday before. Hello to the chat room, Lucas, Udavir, Adam, Rosales, who makes the good point that he's losing weight because he's not getting takeaways or anything on the way home, and he's not eating when he's out and about. Clappers is in there as well. Lucas, Connor, another full chat room as I scroll up. Taylor, hello. You can join us by searching for Remain Indoors. In fact, you can't. If you search for Remain Indoors on YouTube, we're like 1,000 billionth on the list. So don't search there. Go to missedapexpodcast.com/Remain Indoors. And there's a link to the YouTube. You can come and join us live. And on Twitter, we are at Indoors Remain, which I deliberately did as a clever viral thing because you think it's a mistake and then you remember it. Matt, the history books will record. That was genius PR by me and not at all a mistake. But to round off the alcohol, there is no pressure to not be hungover. I think that's a key point because you don't have to commute. So you can stay in bed essentially until the kids are starving. My kids feed themselves. So, I mean, this morning, we didn't get out of bed till 8:30. So there's none of that pressure. If you had to get up at 7 to then go and commute and go and sit in the office, after half a bottle of wine, you'd be going, oh, I can feel that. I shouldn't do that again tonight. The disincentives just aren't there anymore. So you're right. Some people are going to spiral towards alcoholism. Good.
So look after your friends.
That's, well, I don't know. You're not their mums, are you? Just leave them to it. No, that's not good advice either. Look after each other, everyone.
If you Skype call your friend and they've got a pile of whiskey bottles behind them, maybe just check in on them a bit more.
A little bit. Or the counter argument is leave him alone because it's better than him going on a murder spree. I don't know.
People don't generally jump to murder sprees that quickly.
Okay. Well, I've seen movies, Andrew. Andrew, if you're going stir crazy, let me know how crazy you're going because you are a legitimate, real scientist who does real research. Your job is literally to cure cancer. And if you go mad during the lockdown, then I will have a mad scientist friend. And then we can do like all kinds of crazy movie stuff. Like you could end up like biologically engineering me to have one really powerful shoulder or something.
That is the worst superpower I've heard in a long time.
No, it's of course all right. It's punching power. I will have additional punching power.
It says shoulder, not arm.
All right. I might have. Yes, I didn't improvise very well there. I'm really sorry. But yeah, but the point is taken. You could become a mad scientist because you've already turned your garden into an outdoor cinema. And that doesn't seem like something a sane person would bother doing. How did it go? Tell me about it.
It was brilliant. And it's what any sane person would do with 2 children if they want more space. And yeah, so we put up a couple of ladders, put a bedsheet between them, put a projector in a tent to stop it getting wet if it rained, and made a little projection booth. And then we sat there and had popcorn and watched Jurassic Park.
You watched Jurassic Park outside at night. Yep. How did your neighbours respond to the constant, like, brr, and all that?
Well, the sound system was only my laptop, so I don't know if they kind of got the full feeling. But I've had no reports yet from neighbours watching it through the windows, which I was kind of hoping to turn around and see all the lights on, everyone staring out. But we had good fun.
It was. So are you a hero now with the kids for setting this up?
It was kind of break even, good fun versus it's cold because it's the UK.
Yeah, and so you can't do it during the day, of course, because you need the lighting. But it's amazing when you do go to that effort, because I saw the pictures. Are they on your Twitter? Have you tweeted those pictures?
There was several tweets. As the sun was going down and we slowly saw the image appear, because I just left it on to see when it was working.
Nice.
And kept going, is something coming through there? Starting to see it. We used Empire Strikes Back as our tester. So the lightsabers came through quite well, was the first thing we started to see, and C-3PO's shiny head.
It's a perfect opportunity. Go and find that at Andrew Holding. But it's a perfect opportunity to do these kind of things, and it's amazing how much dad credit you get when you go, okay, do you know what? We're going to spend an hour and we're going to convert the living room into a full-on fortress. So, that's what we did. We went, right, the normal rules don't apply. Rip the cushions apart, go and get bed sheets, go and get towels, go and get any pole or stick you can find, and let's turn the living room into an indoor, sofa fort cushion. And you're a hero for that, because normal non-lockdown parenting, it would be, I don't have time for any of that. I've got a commute. I've been on a train for an hour and a half. No, you cannot rip the sofa to pieces. But, I don't imagine that pre-lockdown Dr. Holding was in a hurry to go and put ladders and a sheet and build a projector cinema outside in his garden.
No, it's not something we've ever done before, and I would definitely do it again. It's great fun. What we need to get more popcorn, and we need, just warmer evenings. But I can see if this still goes on, as everyone's saying, for many months, there'll be many more cinemas in my back garden. I might need to get a better screen than the bedsheet because I can't be bothered to keep ironing it.
Brilliant. Matt, we've got a scientist here, so I do have some very interesting sciencey type questions for him. But do you have any niff-naff and trivia lined up for us as well?
Do I ever? Yeah, well, as you know, we this might actually be a fun thing to discuss with our scientists, because our very own governor here in New York just yesterday decreed that everybody had to wear masks in situations where social distancing wasn't possible. And there was, at least online and Twitter, a rather robust debate about the actual benefits versus risks and costs of the mask. And I believe as well what the actual point was in the first place of asking people to do that. That's one thing. But more to the point, I think I should probably go over the dress code.
Okay.
And this came to us on Twitter from John Person at Learn Me Good, who hat tips Jocelyn M. Do attempt to follow the dress code for our meeting today. Pajamas should not have spaghetti straps, holes, or inappropriate graphics. Onesies must be fully buttoned, though any attached animal heads may be worn in the up position so long as they do not obstruct your face. Please do not mix storylines. Frozen and Tangled are not to be worn together. Not Star Wars and Star Trek. And only Marvel DC crossover universes may be approved. Marvel DC crossover universes may be combined. Please contact HR for guidance. So now that we know that, I feel like we can have a really professional video presentation.
And I think we could add to that as well. Don't constantly change your Zoom background. You're not 7, and this isn't the first time that you've dealt with it.
So I had to teach my first online class yesterday. I was well convinced that the school had just forgotten about us, but no, I have to go teach little 3rd and 4th graders online once a week now. And during the half hour that I taught them, one kid turned themselves completely 360 degrees and left themselves upside down for the majority of the class.
And you're just like, oh, do I bother saying anything? It's been interesting because I've watched Nicola dealing with 6-year-olds up to 12-year-olds online, and what she said was, in one of her classes, the little ones are fine and they're pretty compliant and they just enjoy it. With the 12-year-olds, what they quickly discovered was that they basically have a chat forum on the Zoom conference call. So they're all there just messaging each other, and Nick was like, this is the equivalent of just talking in class. And she had to go, no, you have to pay attention. If you're all in the chat room chatting, that is the same as just talking over the lesson, so stop it. So it's been really interesting watching how the teachers have been dealing with this stuff, and I'm delighted that you've now entered that hellish world as well. Because at first, all the teachers were like, oh, we can just mute everyone. We have complete control. And then the kids have discovered how to manipulate their backgrounds, turn themselves upside down, chat in the chat room. It's like a normal classroom.
Yeah, this is complete and utter madness.
Okay. So yeah, I think we're getting to the point where people are starting to deal with video conferences and video calls as if it was real life. The other day, us and our friends, we decided to have a pub night, right? Well, in fact, I'll be honest, the lads were having a pub night. We wanted to chat. And then the ladies got hold of it, and we said, well, what we'll do is we'll have the lads pub night first. We'll have 45 minutes or half an hour. We negotiated in the end. Well, we'll sit and we'll have a beer together and have a chat. Then we'll invite the ladies in. It turned out, in the end, I thought we would be on the call for like 90 minutes. In the end, we were on that Zoom call from 8 p.m. till midnight and treating it completely like a normal pub night. I'd put on a jumper, which is the height of how, you know, if it's like, oh, it's a black tie event, I'm like, oh, jumper, neat jumper. That's as far as I go, Matt.
That's hilarious. But that's still better than some lawyers, I think, in the Washington, D.C. area that got upbraided for turning up to court video conferences. One shirtless, no shirt on, talking to the judge. The other from her bed, actually still in bed, dialed in to a legal conference with the judge. And the judge was not entirely pleased with that, well, shall we say, informality.
So if you're going to dial in from your bed, why do you turn the camera on?
It might be a requirement. It might be a requirement to have the video on. You never know. Andrew, while we're here, let's not waste your intellect talking about onesies necessarily. Matt, you might want to just nudge your noise gate up or down, whichever it is that makes the shwung shwung sound go away. People love it when I talk about your noise gate. They love it. I've had on the iTunes reviews, it's 5 stars. The drama of Matt's noise gate and Aqua Dragons is why we're here. If you want to add to those iTunes reviews, that really, really helps us. Go and search for Remain Indoors. 5 stars and insult Matt's face. That's what we're looking for. So 5 stars, that's good, but the comments should insult Matt's face. Like, which toe does he most look like?
And definitely not Spanner's hair. Do not insult the hair.
I'm not particularly proud about the hair. I've been wanting to go number 5 and just clipper it off. But the wife's like, oh, no, you look nice with hair. But then, and then I go, oh, do I? And then I pull it forward in like the 90s style and go, really? Is that good? Do you lust after me with this strange Stuart Lee style mop on top of my head?
And the answer is...
Well, the evidence would suggest no, Matt, but let's not get into that. This is a public forum. Right, let's talk science. Let's talk science. Dr. Holding, why are people tearing down 5G? People are tearing down 5G masks or things that look like 5G masks. Why?
Because they're wrong. I mean, so this is this idea that 5G somehow links to coronavirus, which makes no sense to anyone who's ever thought about a single bit of science.
Wait, let's establish the claim of this group. Let's assume they're talking as one. Is the claim that the 5G masks are helping the virus spread, or that the virus is a lie and all the illnesses are being suddenly caused by 5G masks and there's no virus?
Depends who you argue with. And that's what makes it quite difficult. So some people say, it magically makes the virus appear in you, which if we could do that, we could teleport burgers to our houses, which would be fantastic because you could move matter. Some say it's because it affects the oxygen around the mask, which if it does that, that's terrifying. And it doesn't. And again, would be like a super weapon. Some people say it weakens your immune system, but then why do you get coronavirus, not rabies or something? I don't know. Also, it goes on and it's like whack-a-mole. You just keep going, well, what about this? And they go, well, it's obvious because of this next thing. You go, well, no, that's not obvious. There's no reason for that. And there's no reason to think that 5G and coronavirus, in fact, it is such a difficult thing to try and find a link that makes any sense.
So what I love is asking somebody whose job is biology, science-y biology, isn't it? It's all like, yeah, like literally cancer, isn't it? So like you understand how the body interacts with these really small diseases and stuff. It must be so maddening when you have a deep understanding of the science. But even to an idiot like me, I think there can't possibly be a link between these 5G towers, which I'm assuming are relatively new, and the illnesses. I just can't understand where the thinking comes from.
What's so absolutely mind-blowing is you can look at countries that don't have 5G yet, and they still have coronavirus.
Yeah,
so
okay.
There's really simple arguments that don't require a PhD, don't require you to be a scientist to go, this is not sensible. Yet people are getting quite worked up about this, and they think they have the answers. They sort of pull together YouTube videos and Wikipedia to make a narrative and then you can shoot holes in it, but they just patch over it, and it becomes a being in itself.
So, I mean, we're seeing people who you would expect to be part of it and people who you wouldn't expect to be part of it. So Eamon Holmes, let's get back to Eamon Holmes in a second, actually. We had Prince Nassim Hamed, the boxer. I can't remember. There's some Hollywood actors, sort of the usual suspects, if you like. Woody Harrelson saying that there's a link. And then you've got the I'm just asking questions guys. And these are my favorite because it's the scientific equivalent to I'm not racist, I've got a black friend. But they're kind of going, I'm not saying 5G causes coronavirus. I'm just saying we haven't fully established if it's safe yet. And we had a friend reply to one of my tweets with that exact thing. And Eamon Holmes is kind of going, oh, yeah, but we just don't know. We don't know. I'm not saying it is that, but I'm just saying we don't know it's not that. I think those people actually do think that the 5G masts are somehow causing or coronavirus.
Well, every time a new technology comes along, you get people who have some kind of fear about it. And this has happened for centuries. Like when TV was invented, it was going to destroy our brains. When the printing press came along, it was going to make people read books or something. I don't know. I wasn't there, but it was apparently terrifying.
Matt, what was that like when books came out?
It was almost as good as when the world changed into color.
But yeah, some of these people in positions on TV really should, actually have people who can help them work this out before they air those views on air. I don't know, have you ever heard about Russell's teapot?
I will after you have told me, then I will have then already heard of it.
Yes. So Russell's teapot is a philosophy idea. And the argument is, if I told you there is a teapot orbiting in an orbit somewhere between Mars and Earth, how can you prove me wrong?
Andrew, I want to buy your teapot.
Well,
how much money
can cost you a lot?
Okay, yeah, okay. So orbiting between, so like a mini planet that is a teapot orbiting between Mars and Earth, and I've got to prove that it does exist or doesn't.
I'm saying it does exist. Now prove me wrong.
Oh, we would have discovered it by now?
It's very small. Can't pick it up with any known technology.
The gravitational effect.
The gravitational effect is smaller than the gravitational effect around you, so no.
Okay, so I think what you're driving at is that the absence of evidence isn't the proof of the teapot.
Evidence of absence?
So the absence of evidence isn't evidence of absence. Is one of these ideas that comes up in science a lot. But you have to be careful when you apply it. And these people with 5G masks saying you can't prove. The thing is, it's clearly absurd to say there is a teapot in orbit of Mars because who put it there? How did it get there? And, there may be a Tesla Roadster up there somewhere because we saw Elon Musk do it. But as far as we're aware, there is no evidence that someone put a teapot up there.
I find the thing fascinating because we have had people now in the UK, I think in Yorkshire was the main one, but I think it's in a load of places, actively going out and smashing up these things. And there was one where it actually has disrupted a fire brigade's ability to receive emergency calls or emails or whatever. So these guys are having, a lot of the time we say, well, what's the harm? Let them believe there's a chocolate teapot. But now people are actually motivated to pull these masts down. I think we have to start actually thinking about why people believe this. It would be too easy, as a lot of the chat room are saying, Matt, to just go, they're all idiots. I mean, that would be too easy. But we have, you and I, as humans, and Dr. Holding as well, we've all been sucked into believing things that aren't true.
I am human.
Yeah, allegedly. Well, the jury's out. But Matt, we can say they're not critical thinkers. I think it's not useful to say that they're just stupid because we actually need to find a way to help them not be that. I'm just going to say stupid. Yeah, it is. I mean, it is stupid. It is stupid.
But the thing about stupidity is it's a label, and it's not a useful label if you want to engage and change people's minds. No one's won a political campaign on saying you're stupid if you don't vote for me, and it's a battle of ideas. And there are people who are profiting out of these ideas. And what's the harm? Well, we know the harm of burning down 5G masks is huge because it affects the emergency services. But what's the harm in ignoring it? Well, sometimes people have been right, so you do need to listen to them. But I think we have listened to them, and we said, you haven't made a convincing argument.
Is now when we talk about the vaccines and Dr. Wakefield, if we're going to talk about profiting off of these sorts of things.
Yeah, and it's interesting that if you look at the counter arguments from a lot of the anti-vaxxers is follow the money, whereas if you actually follow the money, Wakefield said, buy my vaccine. And the thing I find really interesting about that story is everyone quotes his paper as being the thing that said there was this link. His paper actually says they found no link, even though it was retracted. He only said that at a press conference where he was not accountable, and it exploded into this big thing. And he still makes a lot of money out of this.
Okay, so I got quite a bit of grief on Twitter for this long-standing theory I have had about why these things are spreading, and it reminded me that, you know, maybe Twitter doesn't need my hot takes on these things, and I have to be prepared for an hour of A, finding out some people are nuts, or B, people, this is the most annoying thing, arguing points you didn't make, and then you have to sit there and go, no, please go and read the tweet, I said this thing. You know, I said the sky is blue, and they're like, yeah, but sometimes oranges are purple, so, you know, what say you about the oranges? I didn't mention oranges, and that's it. It's an hour of, I didn't say oranges. I didn't mention anything about oranges, so I'm not going to bother in the future. However, as someone with an online presence, I have made it my business to go into Facebook groups that I wouldn't normally go into. I follow the trail of things like if someone shares something on my Facebook page and they share, immigrants is bad, innit? They bring rats over on the ship and then they marry the rats. And when it's my friend who I went to school with and I think, but they're a nice person. Like, why are they suddenly sharing things from like far-right groups? And why is a far-right group talking about the science of rats? It sort of didn't really make any sense. So I would follow that to where that group come from, and I would just join that group. And I would sit there and I would have on my Facebook page far-right propaganda or far-right posts popping up, or I could just ask my in-laws because they just share all that stuff. The big things at the moment are Chinese people are basically evil. Everything evil ever comes from China, and this 5G thing. So it's been long been my theory that these far-right groups are spreading general misinformation that is scary to attract the kind of people who are easily manipulated and go, oh my God, that's terrible. Lampposts cause your kneecaps to fall off. They then join the group. You build up a following. Now this, and you've now got 5G causes coronavirus groups. And then you know that you've got a group of people that you can manipulate to your own kind of task, to your own agenda. And Matt, the best example of this is the Nigerian scams, where they go, hello, I am a Nigerian. But they say, you need to send me some money and then I will unlock the rest of the fortune. Now, if you turn around to me and say, that's ridiculous, that's an obvious con because you're going to just take my money, then that's fine. I actually don't want you. I want you to yell at me and hang up. I want the person that goes, oh, that's a good idea. Or, oh, really? I should? I need to send 500 quid or my double glazing will crumble. And then I've got a group of those people that I can then manipulate.
You owe the IRS money is a classic phone call scam. But
exactly.
You know who I'm thinking of? I'm thinking of Gwyneth Paltrow.
Goop.
Yes, Goop.
Yep.
Which is,
she makes an awful lot of money with that.
And the thing is, we don't have a really good societal way of holding these people to account because it sits outside science. The people get really defensive when you challenge it. People think they have a freedom to do these things, which maybe they do, maybe they don't. That's not really a scientific question, but I can say there's no science behind taking a jade egg and pushing it into holes that it shouldn't belong into. And it's with evidence, it's risky. So what do you do when you go, actually, which is a really horrible thing, put your hand up and go, you shouldn't be putting that there. And people go, but I want to. You go, well, I mean, what do you do? And that's why I certainly, and as in my role as a scientist in the sort of public eye, or at least places like this, I don't call people idiots. I don't call them stupid because actually they're not. When you actually talk to other people, they're not. They have beliefs, and I very much want to try and find out why they have those beliefs and maybe try and engage with them to try and see, well, what can I learn? What are we getting wrong as scientists? For being that people aren't listening
and
to
how
us?
does that go, that engagement, Dr. Holding?
it's really, really hard work. And that's the challenge we have, is it's a lot easier to make stuff up.
Okay, avoiding legal problems here. I mean, okay, I'm going to read out a chat room comment. Okay, that's so it's not my comment. I'm reading out a chat room comment. I think I'm all right there. Master Noob says, I find it horrible that this stuff is allowed. It's just a scam. So with Goop, they're selling a product for money. With these 5G rumors, now I'm not saying the far right even started those rumors, but once they see something, they can start pulling on the threads and then start distributing that. And we know, it's very common knowledge that certain groups and certain personalities of pour money into social media like Facebook to spread these things, and then you can do, the bait and switch. And which is why I get very worried when I see people I know spreading this stuff. And I've said to my friends before, I've said, that group is essentially a Nazi group. That's a very far right group. And they went, oh, no, I didn't know anything about that. I just agreed with the scary thing. So I think that there's a deeper concern with a lot of this misinformation in general. And yeah, that's what makes me worry. And then Facebook took the step of actually shutting down the 5G corona rumors, which people thought was censorship and extreme. But I think that is them actually taking action against political groups rather than shutting down a scientific argument.
So for me, the real place I engage with is on cancer therapies, because it's really good for me as a scientist working on how does breast cancer happen, because I'm at the molecular level. I'm a biologist. I'm not a clinician.
Andrew, sorry. Can you say that again? Can you say, I'm a biologist, not a clinician? That is like your movie.
It's like McCoy in Star Trek. So I will talk to patient advocates. I will talk with patient groups. And when I can do this, it's great because they tell you what are the key questions for them and what can I answer at the biology level. So if I want to know, well, how does this happen in the disease? I can then tone and target my research to questions they actually care about rather than just cool science questions. But you also, of course, then start engaging with the alternative medicine and how people deal with that. And the key thing in the UK is we have a thing called the Cancer Act. And that provides a lot of clear laws to try and stop a whole history, and this goes back a long way, of people coming up with alternative therapies or diagnosing cancer. And you're not allowed to do that within certain rules. The same way as you're not allowed to claim things are vaccinations that aren't. And that means we have a clear framework. When you talk about 5G masks cause coronavirus or whatever, we don't have that framework. So that's a key difference to me, is when I step outside of that bubble, I don't have clear governmental guidance on what is and isn't, right.
And I'm just minded of the current debate over hydroxychloroquine. And I was reading online, someone had gone through and looked at the original study from France that had put it forward as a possibility. And not surprisingly, it didn't meet any standard for any study with any statistical meaning whatsoever. But what they said as part of this article was also interesting, is that scientists have long known that if you just drop that into a petri dish full of virus, it will kill the virus. But it has never worked in humans ever once on any virus, and in many cases has actually made them worse. And so that must be really frustrating to you as a biologist to see this kind of information circulating, because there is evidence that it works, but only in mice, only in a test tube, and not in people.
And I think that's where it's hard for people like me and Matt, because people go, a study showed that, and then we don't know what to make of that.
One of the comments in the chat is that's also true for gasoline. And I think this is the point. People often say, oh, have you found a new compound that cures cancer? In the lab, on a petri dish growing cancer cells, most things I pour on those cancer cells will kill them. They actually need quite a lot of care and attention to grow. It's not easy to grow cells on a petri dish that are used to being in the human body. The trouble is, a lot of those things, say bleach, not good for the person. If you inject bleach into someone, it kills them. There's no debate about that.
Good to know.
It's really good at killing cancer, though. That isn't the challenge. Talking about, the drugs that people talk about repurposing, one of the other problems with this isn't just the fact they don't reproduce very well, is we have people doing retrospective analysis of data. And this comes into the whole p-value argument as well. So a p-value tells you the probability that the answer could be wrong. So if you do an experiment 200 times, a certain number of them will give you this p-value. So you kind of need to see it showing the answer you to prove your case more than just once. And what you can do is, if you do it retrospectively, you can pick the cases that give you the answer you want. And that means all the statistics fails. And this doesn't sound like a big thing because you go, well, presumably these are good, these are honest people. Why would they be cherry picking? Well, the trouble is they're not necessarily cherry picking deliberately. What they've done is they've gone to their big data set of 1,000 patients and said, what drugs work to cure this? And they're going to go, oh, well, this one seems to correlate. But the trouble is, you will always find some of those if you go back through old data, because you're not making a prediction, you're looking for what's an outlier, and there are always outliers. What you then need to do is do the blinded clinical trial going forward. That takes time. People are trying to rush things for good and bad reasons. And that's where we now seeing that when we're trying to do the forward-looking trials, it isn't working. At the same time, we're removing a really important drug for people with lupus and other diseases who need it.
So they're doing the equivalent of walking up to a barn door with a bunch of bullet holes and then just drawing the target around and going, see, this shows up.
Yep, no, that's exactly the problem. If you go, oh, look, the things cluster here afterwards, well, that doesn't mean that bit of the barn door attracted them.
I think what was really interesting, when you're talking about the cancer cures that were banned and outlawed, is the things you read on alternative medicine packets, such as homeopathy and herbal remedies, they're actually very careful with the claims they make. So if you go to that manufacturer's website or that manufacturer and or look on the bottle, it never says this will cure your gout. But the thing is, it's spread then on other forums that such and such an oil cures your gout. And there's a lot of like very weaselly words with the alternative medicine, again, making it very hard for people to discern what is what. All they hear is homeopathy, arsenic, because that's what it is. Arsenic homeopathy will cure your allergies. So you go and you just go to the shelf and you find arsenic homeopathy without ever realizing that there's literally nothing in it. Take it, your thing goes away, and then they end up going, they go back to the forum. Oh yeah, what disease did I say? Gout allergies is gone now.
I mean, and it's a difficult one. I am not here trying to say I'm an authority and you should listen to me. I'm certainly not on everything. I don't want to go to any of these other biases we could bring in. I want to engage with people so they realize what's the right thing to do and make the decision for themselves. And that's a really hard thing to do, where you can see a lot of these problems come from systematic failures in the healthcare system to listen to women is a well-known challenge. That a lot of things like endometriosis is really poorly diagnosed, so they go to people who listen to them. And what that tells you is we should probably fund GPs better so they have time to listen to people.
Okay, right. Let me unpack that for a second, because I think I'm understanding it. Is the GP has 5 minutes with you and it doesn't give you any attention. You go to the naturopathist, acupuncturist, herbologist, and they will sit down and make you feel special and give you love and attention, which actually makes you feel a bit better on the whole. But I think the thing I'm trying to boil this down to is, what is the specific claim being made, and how do we counteract that? Because a friend of ours, a completely well-meaning, perfectly intelligent friend of ours, has gone and bought wristbands for seasickness, for nausea, for general nausea. And I'd never heard of that before, so I can't actually judge it. But when I hear a bracelet, which I believe is an acupressure bracelet, because it is the claim from the Amazon listing is it puts pressure on the correct point of your wrist, and that makes you not sick anymore. Matt, when I hear something like that, I instantly go, there's no mechanism for that to be true. I want to know the claim of how is it claiming to do it.
So now this is very interesting. My pediatrician for my daughter, when she would get shots, had this little disc with little bumps on it, and she would rub it in the injection area and then give her the injection, and a significant period of the time she wouldn't even cry. So I was really curious to see if there was a mechanism that might be plausible outside of acupuncture, which I think is generally now been disregarded by the medical community as having any efficacy whatsoever.
I mean, without knowing this device, rubbing an area, just a whole load of things which are quite reasonable. You rub aches and pains. the big issue I have with things like acupuncture is not only the fact there is no plausible idea about how they work when we've gone into it, but you then find there is harm. Like people, the needles get left in people, all sorts of other issues. And this is really the issue of unregulated medicine, because it isn't medicine. It's a bit more open because it's people just doing things that people are asking and consenting to, and people get injured. And actually, as I was saying, making the arguments on the real science or making the argument for real medicine is so much harder than making stuff up. And that's what the battle we're fighting. So, yeah, I'm sure there are ways rubbing an area, and I'm sure we can research them, and I'm sure we can find out why it's working. And that's when it becomes medicine, and that's when it gets into the medical textbook. And, we know this. Things like paracetamol and aspirin, drugs based on salicylic acid, that comes from originally willow bark. We've done this. Many of the
Wait, I've heard that
drugs,
one before. Can I have a headache, eat willow bark, and my headache goes away?
it won't be as good as using paracetamol, but it will work. And you'll probably get a really woody lump in your mouth.
I like that. And I love how diplomatic you are. You never fall for my bait, Dr. Holding. When I bring you here on live radio, I'm trying to just get you to say, yes, everybody out there, acupuncture doesn't work in the way it claims and you shouldn't do it. But you never go down that line because you're always just trying to address the pure science of it instead of it going into your opinion.
Well, I think that's where you're discussing listening really is maybe the key to this, because the proper question to ask at that is, why are people looking to acupuncture instead of going to the GP, instead of going through the medical community to get, one would assume for the most part, supported evidence-based treatments that should actually help them.
And I think that's actually it. And that's why I don't want to sit here as take it from authority, because I think one of the key issues is that people are listening to a person of authority within the field, whether it's David Icke or whoever. I may not believe them, but I don't want to just replace that. I want people to have respect for the foundations of science, or maybe, the other places in government, you want to have a government people can trust. And actually in the UK, and certainly quite a lot of the countries in Europe and to the US and Canada to some extent, there is fairly good trust in government. I know there are challenges in some of those countries right now, but overall, the institutions are quite robust. And what we need to do is not just tell people to listen to us, we need to give evidence that we are a trustworthy source, and that a guy who goes on YouTube and claims that the royal family are lizards is not a trustworthy resource, but not do it because we gave ourselves our own rubber stamp. Do it by listening. The same way as you trust your mate down the pub isn't because he shouts at you and he's the loudest when he gets drunk. It's the guy who you listen to you respect.
So you can make that really complicated and very reasonable argument. However, I'm a guy on YouTube, so I can just say, in my opinion, there's no way that acupuncture can possibly do what it claims to do, which is manipulate your chakra points and treat the disease by changing the flow of your life force to then cure diseases. So I can say that, Dr. Holding, even if you're reluctant to. Also, homeopathy is the most ridiculous turn on a string of a medication idea I've ever heard of.
Yeah, and I mean, I've seen no evidence that any of these things work, and I would put no faith in them. And that's what it is. It's faith. It's not science. But, I think when just telling people they're idiots is not a way to fix this. You have to find the actual underlying issue. And the same goes with, you were talking about far-right groups. We're basically talking about fascism. We're talking about extremism. We're talking about people who predate on those insecurities, and telling people they're wrong doesn't fix insecurities. Engaging with them, building those relationships, whether it's from government, whether it's from the science, whether it's from whatever group's important here, that is how you protect people. And those security groups, and that's why we talk about, community leaders engaging, because when people feel they're listened to, when they know who to trust, then they don't get pushed to these other groups who exploit them by pretending that they're their friends, when actually what they want is not always the best intentions of the people, or certainly not the people who disagree with them.
It's a tough fight, and Dr. Holding, I know you have fought that fight in a very reasonable way for a very long time, and I have done my best to try and give you a voice and give you a platform for that scientific thinking. And I think we will continue to do so. You and I are always conversing back and forth with how can we get people at my general level of intellect and understanding to start thinking in a more scientific way, engage with the not fun bits of the science where it actually takes a little bit of time to get your head around a way of thinking and a way of understanding, and then not be susceptible to the aggressive and deliberate lies that are being spread, and maybe stop thinking about these people as idiots and start thinking of them as people who have been fooled by organizations and people who are incredibly smart, incredibly motivated, incredibly well-funded, putting out deliberate misinformation that has evolved over decades to do exactly what it's doing, which is to catch people out. Which is why I don't think it's useful, Matt, to call them idiots, and which is why I try and bring Dr. Holding on to speak to people about stuff.
Well, it has occurred to me that if people weren't that manipulable, then there would not be an advertising business that existed. You know, not only has it existed, it's existed a long time, and they've gotten really, 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 really good at it. And it's, don't overlook that when you're talking about people who've been preyed on due to ignorance or just general fear, because I mean, it's scary times right now.
If we have bored you, don't tell your friends. Just know that we are going to go back to complaining about our wives, lives, and children next Tuesday, Monday, and Thursday at 2 p.m. If you think that we've done some interesting science here, do get in touch. Email me at spannersready@gmail.com. With the subject line "Remain Indoors." Tell us what you think about the guests and whether bringing Dr. Holding on is worthwhile, or whether you think he's boring and weird and you're fed up of experts. I mean, he is a bit weird and he is a scientist. He chose to do that on purpose. He chose like biology and all that kind of stuff. And like yesterday when we got quite deep into accounting, and I don't know why we did that. And I'm like really sorry that we did that. Let us know what you think. Tell a friend and leave us an iTunes review. We'd really appreciate that. Dr. Holding at Dr. Holding on Twitter.
Yep. Follow me. I tweet about a lot of things, sometimes science, sometimes very technical stuff about my work, sometimes about me building a home cinema to watch Jurassic Park for no good reason apart from it's fun. And if you tweet me, I usually reply because, you know, I like the attention.
Awesome. Yeah, this is a useful trait for a communicator. Thank you very much, Dr. Holding. Thank you very much, Matt Trumpets. We'll see you here next Monday from 2 p.m. Until then, remain indoors. Haven't got this catchline down. Work hard, be kind, play Scrabble. Don't cheat at Scrabble. Don't look it up on the dictionary. I'm really lost on this. Listen to podcasts. I think that's the takeaway, but not the new podcasts that have sprung up from people who didn't previously make podcasts, because all of them are rubbish. They're all rubbish, Matt.
Can we get Tim back to do that better?
No, don't stop. You could send